Kalimera pedia potonaflio. Now in this video I want to talk to you about why I left the UK to move here to Greece. Now before we get into the video, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory because this is not your average British person that left the UK in order to come to sunny Greece. I was born in London in 1975. Both my parents are from Venezuela and I grew up in Venezuela. So I am British in paper, but growing up in Venezuela, I always had this idea that I would go back to the place of my birth. I went back to England when I was in my early 20s. I managed to arrive in the UK with 500 quid, a backpack, and an acoustic guitar. I had zero connections, I had no friends, no family, and no job opportunity. People in Venezuela were telling me, what are you gonna be doing in London? London is such a big city. Why don't you go to a smaller city? I was not born in a different city. I was born in London. And that's exactly where I'm gonna go. And I'm gonna not only go and visit, I'm gonna go and live there. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm working in a recording studio. Add to the mix that I'm playing in a band. I have girlfriends. All of my friends are musicians. I'm just living my life. But I remember applying for my British passport. I go to the embassy and I remember just signing the passport and just having it in my hand and going back to the recording studio, which was my day job, with this document that said, I am a British citizen, born in London. As soon as I had my British passport, I decided to pack my bags, save some money, and get myself a one-way ticket to London. Fast forward to today, I live in Greece for the last 14 years, but London has a very special place in my heart. England has a very special place in my heart. Why? Not only because I was born there, but because that's the place where I met my wife. That's the place where my eldest daughter was born as well. Not to mention that if we go back, my parents met there. My parents got married there. So there's a whole history that I have with England. And it's kind of like a love and hate relationship at this point. But because I've been away for such a long time now, I want to share with you 7 reasons why I decided to give up my dream life in England for my life here in Greece. Number 1, and this one is going to be a very obvious one, the weather. When I first arrived in England, I knew about the weather. I was told that it's always raining, it's very gray, it's not sunny like this. So I was like, I can deal with that, no problem with it. However, after a few years of living in London, it really got to me. The weather, I was like, I can deal with the rain, I can deal with the gray skies, but I was wrong. After a few years, it just really got to me. Mental health and all of this, it really affected my mood. So I was really desperate for the sun because I grew up in Venezuela, so I grew up close to the sea. I grew up in a tropical weather country. So for me, the weather was a real shock. There was no way I could adapt. I mean, I did adapt it, but I really suffered over the years. Obviously, when it comes to food, you cannot compete with the Greek cuisine. I mean, if you want to get in arguments about this, leave it in the comment section, but Greek cuisine is at the top. The Mediterranean diet is just second to none. Yes, in England, you can have access to many, many different cuisines from around the world, but we all know that British are not famous for their good food, and they'll get offended. When I tried souvlaki for the very first time, I said, I could live in Greece forever. Have you tried a souvlaki yet? Game changer. It's not the same as a kebab, right? Kebabs are really good. I tried many, many kebabs in the UK. Nothing like a good souvlaki, man. The cost of living. It's no secret that living in London is super expensive. It's probably one of the most expensive cities in the world. When I arrived in England, I remember I was paying for a bus ticket. It was 80 pence back then. 80 pence for the most affordable bus ticket that you can go from A to B to a certain distance. When I left the UK, that same bus ticket was costing me over £2. And that's within a period of 10 to 12 years. This is before Brexit, by the way. And I'm gonna talk about this because I relocated from the UK here to Greece before Brexit. So definitely the cost of living here in Greece, even though wages can be worse than living in London, still the cost of living still is more affordable than living in England. I mean, that is a fact. However, for Greeks, it's very expensive to try to live a good life here for many, many reasons, okay? With that being said, I went back to the UK last year. London has changed so much after Brexit. Obviously, when it comes to lifestyle, it's a no-brainer for a person like me that grew up in Venezuela, close to the sea, to choose Greece instead of lifestyle in London. As much as I loved living in London in the English lifestyle, as a city boy in the big smoke, this is where I belong. I belong in the sea. I belong close to the beach. The fact that I can do this walk from my home and just be here shooting a YouTube video, it's just, that's priceless, man. That's my rich life, right? I mean, look at this. I'm in this beautiful location, all right? Another thing about lifestyle is that living in Greece, you're out and about. You always see me doing these videos outdoors because I'm going for a walk, I'm going for a hike. So when you live in Greece, you're gonna go swim. So when you live here in Greece, you're gonna be engaging with your environment in a different way. In England, my workout was commuting to the tube, to the bus. That will be my 10,000 steps a day. Now my 10,000 steps is doing this. And doing YouTube videos and going out of breath. I'm way more outdoors here in Greece than I was in London. When I was living in London, I was always looking for shelter from the rain, from the cold. It's always freezing cold. You know, it's a different life. And that's what happens when you live in a northern country. But here in Greece, because we enjoy the good weather, simple things like going for a walk. I mean, look at this. You have the sea, just going for a hike. It's just simple things, you know. Going for a swim. I was talking to my wife today, should we go to the beach today with the kids? Today is Saturday, so I'm recording this. She said like, no, it's gonna be too many people, you know, whatever. It's already late, maybe tomorrow morning. So just wake up early in the morning tomorrow and take the kids to the beach. Take the kids to the beach is just literally pack our bags and go to the beach. Back in the day, that would be a holiday. Meaning that we will have to book a holiday in order to go to the beach with the kids. I mean, I walk this path almost every single day, all right? Even in the winter. I mean, look at this. Obviously, my situation is a little bit different than the average Greek. I get a lot of comments from Greeks saying that I don't live the real Greek life, which is like a life of struggle or working in a factory or whatever. But hey, this is my life. This is how I chose to live it. That doesn't mean that I don't work hard. That doesn't mean that I don't earn money in different ways. You know, I have seen how other people live here in Greece. And I know many foreigners as well that live a similar life to mine. My life is not special, man. It's not that different. You might see it through your lens and think like, oh, Daniel is so fortunate because he makes music and YouTube videos. And that's how he earns a living somehow. But you know, I know many people that live like this as well, that they live online. I know people that live here in Greece and work online. My wife, for example, she works for a Greek company and she works completely remote. And the company is based in Athens. And you know, that's her job, right? I know a Welsh guy who lives here in Greece. He lives in a χωριό, in a very small χωριό, okay? Lovely person. And he's a software engineer and he works as well remote. He lives in a place where there is nothing pretty much. Especially if you come from a place like England and you will come to that χωριό where he lives, you will be in shock. You'll be like, how can somebody live like this? However, somebody like me understands the lifestyle and understand what he's doing, you know, with his wife and everything, who happens to be Greek, you know? And he's a Welsh guy, speaking Greek as well, working online, completely remote, and living his life and doing whatever he can in order to move forward in life. I know another British person as well who works remotely for another company, and she's British, married to a Greek, 3 kids. I have mentioned her before. So I know a few people here. Which brings me to the next point, which is a sense of community and belonging, all right? When I was living in the UK, it was very hard for me to have a sense of community and belonging, even in the place where I was living. You know, and I was very fortunate to have a very good neighbor, you know, which is, it's a strange thing to have when you live in such a big city like London. Knowing your neighbors and having a sense of community, it can be very, very hard when you compare it to Greece, okay? Here, Greeks are very famous for for being very welcoming with everybody. So as soon as I arrived here to Greece, it took me nothing really to just become part of the community and really integrate very, very fast and just have this sense of belonging. I think as someone who was born in a place but grew up in another place, in another country, I always have struggled with this thing, because I have lived in different countries, by the way. Growing up, I lived in Canada at one point when I was a kid, and I had to learn English and French and all the rest, and then go back to Venezuela, but that's a story for another video. But I have always struggled with this idea of belonging. And, you know, even up until this day, I'm a grown-up man living in a foreign country, and some of you guys consider me that I am Greek, really, because of the way I behave and the way I talk, and I have, you know, adopted this Greek culture. But I still have that sense that I'm a foreigner, that I was not born here, I did not grow up here. I was born in another place, but I grew up in another country. I have different cultures, but I chose Greece as my country. So a sense of belonging and a sense of community is very, very important for me and for my kids as well. So here in Greece, I have felt very, very welcome from day one. And now that I live in this small community, you know, that has been taken to the next level. And with this channel, it's been a game changer as well in all my content that I've been sharing since I started this Greek lifestyle. You know, I've been stopped in the street because they know that I'm around, they know who I am because I've been living here. But now that I've been creating content and sharing my life here in Greece, people have been very, very receptive and very welcoming, and expressing that, you know, I saw your videos on social media, or I saw your YouTube videos, or I see what you're sharing, and, you know, they get to know me better because they have seen me around, but they had no idea of my backstory. They had no idea of my love for Greece. They had no idea of the things that I do. Even what I do for a living, they just see me around and they just see like, oh, this guy has 2 kids, you know, a family man. And I see him going around, you know, Naflio, like they say here in Greece. But they had no idea who I am and my background. And as soon as I start sharing that here with you guys and with everybody that is watching these videos, I literally got stopped in the street of Nafta, say like, I watched your video, amazing, I had no idea about your story. And, you know, I really appreciate that you're sharing it, and they feel even more connected with me, which I really appreciate it. I had no idea that that was going to happen when I started this YouTube channel, because these videos are for everybody, obviously, but I never thought that somebody here in NAFTA will be watching these videos, or even Greeks will be watching my videos. I thought that it was just foreigners because, hey, this channel is called My Greek Lifestyle, and it's in English, and I'm talking from the angle of a foreigner living here in Greece. Number 6, culture and history. Once you live here in Greece and you realize that in every corner or everywhere you go, there's a piece of history, there's a piece of culture. You cannot say that the British culture or culture from different countries are better or worse or anything like that. But obviously there is something to be said about the Greek culture and history, isn't it? But there's so much culture, there's so much history. I mean, the fact that I speak Greek as well and learning Greek, because I'm still learning Greek, is just such a deep thing to know where words are coming from, where this language is coming from, and, you know, the meaning behind it. And as a foreigner, this is just completely fascinating. I mean, in fact, you know a few Greek words already, because there's some words that are just happen to be in Greek. So in a way, you speak a Greek and you don't know it. Okay, and finally, work-life balance. I kind of like touch on this already, but it deserves the last point here. Greeks have been portrayed from the media abroad that they're lazy. Somehow Greeks do not work. That is not true, man. Here in Greece, a lot of people work very, very hard. My friend Panayotis, for example, that has a bakaliko, he runs that business by himself. 25 years and counting. So my friend Panayotis is a perfect example. He runs that shop by himself. He doesn't have an employee or anything. He runs that thing by himself. And he still manages to have a life-work balance. You have to see how hard it is to be on a shop by yourself. okay? And there's no other person there to take care of that shop, all right? However, he has Monday afternoons, he's closed. Wednesdays afternoon, the shop is closed as well. And Sundays, the shop is closed. And Saturday afternoons as well is closed, all right? Now, this will be impossible in London. There was no way on earth that somebody that has a shop in England, in a city like London, will close the shop on a Monday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, Saturdays afternoons, and Sundays. Okay, here in Greece, there are certain shops that have that type of schedule, all right, opening hours. This is part of the culture. Unless you're in a big city and you're a franchise or you're a big, chain stores or whatever, this is different, of course, all right? A lot of Greeks have commented here on some of my videos about this and even breaking down the schedule. But the reality is that a lot of shops close on Mondays afternoons, Wednesdays afternoons, and Saturdays afternoons, and Sundays, okay? So this type of work-life balance, even for small business owners like my friend Panayoti, is something that will not happen in London. That's for sure. This will never happen. You will need somebody else to run the shop. You will need somebody else to take over when you have your days off and whatnot. And the life is just completely different. The life-work balance is completely different. I saw that with a cafeño as well, all right? My mother-in-law and my father-in-law were running a cafeño successfully for many, many years, and they had a different lifestyle. They're very, very hardworking people, and it was a really tough business to run. But they did have this work-life balance somehow of being able to be with friends and family as they were running the business. It's not ideal, but there was some things that can be done because here in Greece, businesses like that, people that own businesses like this, they are able to be a little bit more flexible when it comes down to certain things and life-work balance, so to speak. Greeks do work very, very hard. Everybody works really, really hard, especially when you have your own business. There's a lot of effort that goes into running a shop or having a taberna, having a souvlagirico, having your own furnos. I know many people that, you will see their lifestyle, their day-to-day life, and it's a tough job, man. It is a really tough job. However, they do manage to get some type of life-work balance based on the culture, not because of what they want to do or not. It's based on the culture. And for example, here in the summertime, everybody is off. There is something in the air in the month of August here in Greece that everything seems to have shut down. In England, you don't get that feeling at all. In England, you just get this sense that August is just another month. Here, holidays, celebrations are really, really important, and people take it very, very seriously. So work and life balance is a real thing. For example, the 15th of August is a major celebration here in Greece. And I'm not saying that in England you don't have major celebrations and people, celebrate and they join certain traditions and whatnot. But here in Greece, it's a different thing, man. The work-life balance that you have here in Greece is certainly not the same work-life balance that you have in England. It doesn't even come close to it. But don't be confused that just because people here close shops on Mondays and Wednesdays, or they close the shops in Mesimeri just because they like to have their siesta after they have their lunch, and maybe have a cup of wine and everything with their meal, doesn't mean that they're lazy. In fact, they're actually going to go back to that shop and close that shop at 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. All right. So the hours of shops that are open are different because they take the midday, the mesimeri, in order to have a siesta. All right. But that doesn't mean that they close the shop at 7 o'clock in the evening or 8 o'clock in the evening like most shops close in England. And obviously it depends on the shop as well, okay? But because shops are not open all the way from 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 or whatever, the life is different. The life-work balance is completely different here in Greece. So it's something that I was really drawn into here in Greece. And listen, I work from home, all right? But when I moved here to Greece from the UK, I was going to be working in a cafeño, and I did work in a cafeño in the beginning. So I was part of that Greek workforce of showing up at the cafeteria at 6 o'clock in the morning, opening the cafeteria, making Greek coffee. I was even serving chipuro at 7 o'clock in the morning to a few customers that I had, which became part of my life. And I did experience that life. Now, that life was not a success, of course. Some of you have still asked me about the cafeteria story. You want me to elaborate more about it, so I might have to dedicate a whole video about that. But I did understand a thing or two about the Greek life. I've known, of course, I know many Greeks now, and I've known Greeks from all walks of life doing different jobs. So I see their lifestyle, and people do different things for a living, and the work-life balance that people have can vary. And that's why I'm very passionate about working online, working for myself. I'm very passionate of being someone that is available for my kids. I have two beautiful daughters, and one is born in England, but has been raised here, and the second one is born here in Greece. So with my eldest daughter, Fedra, it's kind of like a similar story already. Like, she was born in the UK, but immediately I moved her from England to live here in Greece. And with that being said, I just want to say that every country has their own good and bad. It's just about what you want to do. I get a lot of comments from Greeks living abroad that they say that it's better in the Netherlands, that it's better in Germany, that it's better in Australia. I understand that, because I've done that. But you have to understand that when I went to the UK, I did that same thing that I did when I came here to Greece. Meaning that I was just looking for things that are better in England versus my life in Venezuela, which was really hard because I had a dream life in Venezuela, like I was mentioning. And when I was in the UK, I had a pretty good life in the UK as well. But I still had to convince myself, and not convince myself, but I knew that my life was here in Greece. All right, so I understand that people, when they see this type of videos, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, because your reality and the things that you want might be different than mine. For me, quality of life and the simple things of life is far more important than living in any big city and having access to things, or it's just something that I'm willing to understand, first of all, the differences and the sacrifices. Some of you guys have already commented on some of my videos that I cannot compare London with Nafplio or London with Elefsina. You're entitled to your opinion, but I am comparing my life in London with my life in Elefsina. And yes, I compare London as a city with my life here in Nafplio. Just because I'm comparing London with such a small town, that doesn't mean that I have to compare London with Paris or New York. You know what I mean? I think you're missing the point for those of you who have left this type of comments. I'm talking about my experience of someone who has lived in a major city. And yes, if I come to Greece, even if I come to Ajorio, I want to compare my life in England, in London, with my life in Ajorio. It's a fair comparison. Which one do I choose? I choose to live in Ajorio. I don't know. What else should I say about that? I'm not going to compare London with Paris or Berlin or New York. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is not that type of channel. This channel is about my Greek lifestyle and about the places that I have lived and the places that one point I thought were my dream location. Greece has been the country where I have lived the most. Okay? And I have lived in different countries. Go and watch my first videos where I share where I've lived: Venezuela, the States, Canada, England, and here in Greece. In all of these countries I lived for many, many years, very important years of my life. But now I live here in Greece for the longest period of time so far, and counting. And yes, I know that Greece is not perfect, but this is pretty damn close. This is pretty damn close to perfection. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Thank you for everything, for all the messages. I'll see you in another video, my friend.